right, we are live, week 2 of MyMMANews Radio. I am your host, Eric Cole. Thanks for joining. I'm joined by AJ Hiller of MMA Signatures. He will be my co-host each week. And then tonight in studio, we have NFL free agent Mike Bamiro. How are you tonight, Mike?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, we wanted to welcome you to the show. It's NFL season now. There's a lot going on in the NFL, a lot of drama, things going on. But we're not going to talk about that tonight. That's not what the show's about. We're going to talk about you, how you got into football. I mean, obviously you're a big guy, but other than being 6'8" and 330 pounds.
Oh, you're too nice. I'll take 330. I'm around 335, 334. But it took some time to get down to that weight, of course. So. But yeah, that's about my measurements, about right.
He'll talk about when he first came to the gym, but I remember day one of when he came to the gym.
Oh,
we actually had to butter him just to get him through the door. He was a big boy. He was a big boy back then.
I'm already sick of you. We just started.
All right, so you play football. You've played for the Eagles and the Giants. I'm not an Eagles fan.
That's
I know we're in Pennsylvania, but I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm a Giants fan. But my Giants aren't doing too good this year. But while you're here, you train boxing at AJ's gym.
Yeah.
So why don't you walk us through how you got into football, the NFL?
Sure. I mean, through high school, I'll be honest, I wasn't that good. I was really heavy and lazy, very, very lazy. So when I first got to college, I went to Pittsburgh, Titusville, and I walked on there to go to school academically for pre-law. But as time grew on, I got really, really heavy. My older brother came to visit me one year, and he said, Mike, if you're not gonna at least care about playing football, at least do it just to stay in shape. You know what I mean? And my oldest brother, I always credit him like he's one of my biggest inspirations to why I play. But he said, at least just do it just to stay in shape. So I went to Stony Brook, because initially I applied to Stony Brook, and I got rejected out of high school. So then the second time we went down there, he talked to his old head coach, I talked to the new head coach, and they allowed me to walk on. And in the process of walking on, training with the team all through spring and summer workouts, I grew to love it. My first year there, I redshirted. I sat there, I watched the older guys in front of me play, and and all in my mind, I kept saying to myself, I can't wait till it's my turn to get out there. And for most redshirt kids, if you're behind a guy who's a junior and is a starter, you're looking at a 2-year game plan where you're going to sit out for at least 2 years. The next year, you'll probably be, the third guy off the bench. But going into my the next year, the guy in front of me all of a sudden just didn't want to play football anymore. He just up and quit. So when he up and quit, immediately I was thrust into being a starter for the offensive line. And, the pressure was tough, but, I grew to embrace it, to get better. And, that first year there, my first year starting, we won a conference title, and then I won 2 more after that, after that season was done. And I was a starter. And then my third season as a starter with the Stony Brook Seawolves, I'd gotten a couple of acknowledgments. I got all Big South honors, I got all American honors, and I had a projected draft grade and whatnot. But before the 4th year could begin, I'm talking about probably like in the summer, after the draft, after the pro days, after the all the big combine dates, my school had found out that I had lost eligibility because the school that I went to before I went to Stony Brook, even though I wasn't an athlete, being a full-time student, that eats your eligibility. So that ate up an entire year of football that I could have played. So in the end of June to the beginning of July, I had to find an agent, get some training done, and find an NFL team. And I thank God every day, that at that time I found some good agents, got a good training done, and I got picked up by the Eagles that summer. So within from July to August, I was with the Eagles, playing with them on their team. Chip Kelly's first season there, and it was a great time. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot of football because they don't explain to you how the differences between football. Like when you're coming from high school to college, you see a big difference. It's that great of a difference going from college to the NFL because everybody's great. Everybody's an All-American. Everybody's the best from where they came from, and everybody's putting lots of money and effort into how good they're supposed to be. So. Every practice, every day, was a fight. It was essentially a game. If you weren't a first-string guy, every practice was a game because you're looking to make an impression. And if you didn't make an impression that day, it could hurt you for a long time. So that's the chip I had walked on there with. Sort of the same chip that I had, being a walk-on at Stony Brook. And then my second year didn't pan out too well. I wasn't playing tackle anymore. I moved to guard, where I was finding a little bit more success, but it was a little tougher for me as well too. So by the end of my second season with the Eagles, they had cut me. And then towards the middle of the year following that, in October, I got picked up by the Giants, which honestly, was a dream come true. Because I grew up a Giants fan. I grew up in Long Island, grew up around here. So just like, not everybody in Pennsylvania is an Eagles fan. I definitely understand that. I went to high school surrounded.
So were you accepted? I guess, just being in the NFL, you're happy wherever you go. You're in the NFL. But were the Giants accepting of you coming to them as an Eagle, being the rival team?
Of course, and that's the one misconception I think a lot of people have, is that players don't care, especially in the locker rooms, because everybody knows you're doing whatever you can to get a job.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're looking to make some money to take care of your family, so they don't care if you came from the rival team 2 minutes ago. If you're on the team now, you're going to do what you can to make this team better for them in the long run. So no one ever really cared about that when I got there. As a matter of fact, it was kind of funny because the offensive line coach, I knew him because he was also a Northeast Pennsylvania guy as well too at the time. So they weren't too bothered by that at all.
And the other thing too is the size of this man. The quarterback must have been thrilled to death that he has, Mike protecting him. I know anybody watching or listening, they can't see the size of this man. He's 6. He says 6'8", but he's 6'9". Or 6'10", he's huge. Yes,
right. I'll take it.
I see him in the gym, and he's just a machine. This guy, he is the guy that I want in front of me, no matter where I am.
Appreciate that.
Going into a bar, going into a gym, going into anywhere. He's the guy that you want in front of you.
I'm saying.
So his quarterback, coming to the Eagles or the Giants, thrilled to death. Who was the quarterback of the Eagles back then?
At the time, because when I was on the second squad and the third squad for the team, we were there for Nick Foles before he became the starter.
Oh, okay.
So that preseason when Nick Foles was doing really well, and we all saw it ahead of time. Like, Nick's going to be a starter somewhere, no matter what, because Nick was just that good. He was smart, and he was just so poised. Nothing ever really shook him. Getting hit never shook him. Yeah. So we had Nick Foles, and it had led to him a Canton year. Yeah. Because he had that game against Oakland where he had I think it was 7 or 8 touchdown passes in one game. Yeah. So now they got his jersey in Canton, Ohio.
So right now you're training at AJ's. You're training boxing. I know this is an MMA show.
Yeah.
But
I love MMA too now.
Yeah, but I've seen you went to AJ Bellator in New York. You were there.
Right.
But obviously in MMA, there's a 265-pound weight limit for heavyweight. So you wouldn't be able to compete here in the United States yet in any of these type of organizations where those weight limits are restricted. But boxing's a little bit different.
Yeah.
So talk us a little bit about how you got into boxing. How does a guy who played in the NFL suddenly just wake up one day and say, I want to start punching people in the face? Because I wouldn't want to be hit by you. I would not want to be hit by you.
Right. Look at this guy's hands. Put your hand up. Look at this man's hands. Can you see this? When you shake hands with him, he's shaking your elbow.
Yeah, he's following me.
Yes.
Hey, listen, 11 and 3/4 from pinky to thumb.
That's
right. So it's close to a foot. So close. Just missed it.
Now does that really that thing?
What?
You see where I'm going with it. Does that hold true with the what is it, the tip of your finger to the palm of your hand?
Look, I don't like to boast. That's not my forte. I'm not that guy, but I've done well for myself. But honestly, when because this past year I was training. I actually played in Montreal, Canada, for the CFL team. And when I came back home, one of my old coaches that I used to train with talked to me about, boxing for working on your hands. And I knew that's something I wanted to get my hands better at. And I walk into some old gym in my neighborhood, it's up the street, and I'm hitting the bag with some beat up gloves that I had. And some guy comes to me, he goes, hey, you box? I go, no. This is like, I just train it. He says, well, if you want to go hold the mitts for you. And he holds the mitts for me, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to crush this guy. Because I'm strong. He's not that strong. I'm going to crush him. And I'm sitting there throwing him, wailing him, throwing punches, trying to kill him, trying to crush him. And I'm exhausted. And I look at the clock, and there's still 2 minutes and 25 seconds left on the clock. So then he's sitting there, he's beating me up with the pads on. He's like, yeah, you know, I mean, I can hold mitts for people. I hold mitts for a lot of other guys, you know, who want to train. So if you want, you can come back. And that initial challenge, you know what I mean, because I'm a guy who competes in everything. That's just my nature. I'm a competitor. So when he told me to come back and do that again, I wanted to beat him. That's always been my goal, was just to beat him. And that guy, you know, has become a really good friend of mine. You know, David Vasquez, he runs the boxing training at MMA Signatures. And, you know, at the time he was up at that gym, but then we moved on down to MMA Signatures, and you know, he's a big reason why, you know, I found, you know, a lot of fun and a lot of love in training boxing, in training, you know, the sweet science. You know, it's fun. You know, and I'm enjoying it while I'm doing it right now.
So about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, we were in the gym, in AJ's gym, and we filmed a commercial for one of our sponsors for Combo Hitter, and you did that. Just for you guys listening at home on Genesis Radio, and also when we put the video up on YouTube, we're doing a combo hitter giveaway. We're gonna have Brad Kohler call in. He was in the UFC, the founder of Combo Hitter. He's gonna call in around 9:30 hour tonight.
Nice.
But before we go any further, we want to play a quick commercial from our sponsor in Combo Hitter.
It's a genius idea. It's like someone should have already made it by now, right? Good for him.
He's good. You know why he made it? Because nobody would hold the mitts for him.
For real?
Yeah. All right. So, like I said, Brad's going to call in around 9:30, I think. We're going to talk about that. But like I said, we're doing a giveaway. Brad's going to be giving away a combo hitter every 2 weeks. Anybody can enter. What we want you to do is we want you to do kind of like an out with the old, in with the new theme. Why you would use combo hitter, why you should get rid of your, make a video, 10 to 15, maybe 30-second video, getting rid of your old punching bag, and kind of tell us why you should deserve a new one. And we're gonna send it to you. They're about $250, so they're not cheap. They're nice, and Brad's gonna talk about that later on today. But I want to talk to you about boxing now.
Sure.
So you said you're training at AJ's gym. How many fights have you had now?
I've had 3 fights. Begrudgingly 3 fights, because for some reason I just can't seem to get someone to stick around for the booking.
It's kind of hard because, you know, we do do all the matchups in the area, you know, whether it's, you know, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York, and we try to hide Mike. You know, right? We got a super heavyweight. You know, 2-0 or 3-0. Oh yeah, we'll take that fight, no problem. And then they see this man come through. So we try not to give names up until the day of the fight, because the way that amateur fights work, you know, it's totally different than pros. You know, I mean, amateur.
So you're telling me you play a trick where the fighter, his opponent, shows up on weigh-ins, and then they look up and they see this guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know, because that's the way that amateur boxing works. You know, like you're just there to fight. You know what I mean? Get the experience.
Honestly.
And too often, once they look up Mike Bamiro, you know, and they see this giant. If you ever Googled him, all of a sudden you see all these football pictures, and it looks like he's with, you know, people who are 4 feet tall, but really these people are 6 feet tall. Mike is just that much bigger than him, you know?
Well, I feel like, I mean, it should be for fun anyway.
Yeah.
You know, why not just go out there and enjoy yourself? I mean, you're not going to take your amateur record to the grave. No one's going to go with you and look at you.
Yeah, but the thing is, you could put somebody in the grave.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I figure, you know, you've been doing this for long enough. You know, why not just stick around and have some fun with it? That's what I'm doing. You know, just enjoy yourself and enjoy the spirit of competition, because amateur shows, I mean, it's like nothing else.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? On our second Pocono fight night, Mike fought another guy who was 6'7". So now we got a 6'13" guy in the ring.
I love your math,
yeah.
by the way.
You know, against a 6'7", it could have possibly been the biggest amateur fight ever. Who knows? I mean, picture the size of these two guys. Picture the weight inside that ring. Mike ended up knocking the kid out in 32 seconds or something like that. You know what I mean?
Wow.
But these two giants in the ring were absolutely amazing. And what I'll tell you is this: I bust Mike's chops every day. We go at it. You know, it's like a little brother
Big brother
type thing.
Big, shorter white brother.
Right. But at the end of the day, I've seen him grow in such an amazing way, and I love the guy. He from the day one that he came into the gym, and he's broken several of my combo hitters. You know what I mean? No, not really. But when he comes into the gym, he comes in and, with that big fist that he has and the power that he has behind it, when you could bench press 500 pounds and you throw a 500-pound punch, you're going to hurt somebody. Now, I made the mistake last week of saying, let's go spar. So we get all sparred up, our headgear on, mouthpiece, gloves,
wrapped
up.
This is the end of the night, by the way.
Yeah,
I was getting ready to go home. I was packed up.
Now, my goal was to knock him out. You go into a sparring match, you say, okay, we'll go 40, 50, 60%. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, what I'll tell you, 6 or 8 months ago when Mike first came to the gym, he was very, I don't want to call it uncoordinated, but he was unfamiliar with boxing.
So that when you came to his gym, that was your first experience?
When I first came to the gym, that was like week 1 or week 2 of actually boxing.
Yeah.
And I thought because you feel good enough, you think you can spar with anybody because you're tall. I have a mouthpiece in, and guys are sitting there knocking, wailing on me, and I felt like I was completely out of place a couple times.
We actually had he sparred Brett Martinez. Now you picture Brett is about 5'4", 5'5".
Imagine how stupid that looked.
And against Mike, and Brett was getting in, hitting Mike and everything. I was like, my gosh. Now Brett is a great fighter.
Of course.
He's been around a long time.
Amazing fighter.
So now that was 6 or 8 months ago, maybe even a little bit longer. So now I get this crazy idea.
Almost 9, yeah. Back in January.
Yeah. Because Mike and I will screw around, you know what I mean? I said, come on, let's do some MMA. And when he first came into the gym, I actually took him down. Right. Took him down, and I felt great. Blah, blah.
See how hype he gets talking about it, right?
So now I say, let's spar. You've been boxing now for a good 8 months. Let's get in there and spar. So we get all geared up, go in there. And like I said, even though we say we're going to go 60, 70, 80%, we say that, but I was going to go 200%.
I knew he was.
I was going to knock Mike out. That's what I wanted to do.
That's why I waited.
Yeah.
I felt for the wind of your first punch. And
how'd that go?
So I went in for the left hook, right? Next thing you know, I feel my liver come out someplace that it shouldn't even have came out. He hit me with that big fist. This is about 11 seconds into the thing.
Did you piss blood?
So I haven't pissed since. Yeah. So I put my hands down because it was a feeling that I never felt before. Like it's like getting hit with the.
That was the first time you were touched.
Right. So I thought, my gosh. Right. So I said, all right, I'm good to go. And put the gloves up again, and now I'm really upset. I'm gonna hit him. Now you see his hand come at you, and it's like Jaws. Like Jaws coming out of the water, because he's on the other side of the ring. You know what I mean? I'm 6 feet away from this man, and he's punching me. Next thing you know, my mouthpiece goes flying out of my mouth. So just the transition, like this man going from 6 or 8 months ago having no experience to what he is today. I mean, today, what's today's date? The 24th?
25th.
25th of September 2017. This man sitting to my left will be a world boxing champion. There's no doubt about it.
How old are you, Mike?
I'm 26.
Very young still. Got a lot of time. So what are your aspirations for boxing? I mean, are you doing it just to have fun? Like you said, you're having fun with it. Are you doing it to have fun, or are you looking to make something of it?
Well, I have been doing it to have fun, but a good portion of me likes to compete as well too.
Uh-huh.
So I know part of me still has a lot left to give to the game of football as well too. But I know that there's definitely something I can get done in the sport of boxing. I got the greatest group of people around me. AJ, he was just very, opening with his gym and just helping me out. And I'm real appreciative of that, honestly. Just a place where I can train and be able to move around and get myself right. And, my coach, Coach Dave Vasquez, I think he's probably one of the best coaches I think I've ever been around. He's patient, he's smart, and he's very knowledgeable of the sport as well too. And he's helped out a lot of pro fighters in our area as well too. So I think I've got the right tools that when I'm ready to flip that switch and to completely go all in, then that time will come, and I'll be where up at the top echelon.
So you don't have any fights booked or anything like that coming up?
I mean, we try to. I think we're supposed to have a fight night coming up here.
Yeah, in October, the end of October, we're so close to securing the venue, and that's the biggest thing, trying to secure the venue for a fight. You know, we've had 3 successful fight nights, and you know, we're looking to broaden and look at different venues, and that'll be probably by the end of this week. We'll have that all set up, so we'll
So we
talk
can talk
about
about
that
it next week.
Yep, next week.
Awesome.
All right. So you said you are a fan of MMA.
Yes.
Have you trained in that at all, or is it strictly boxing?
Not a chance. I'm too tall. You know, my knees have gone through too much. I might already have to worry about somebody giving me a leg kick. I have to check that. I have to check takedowns. I think I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know, I'll enjoy myself on the other side of the cage. You know, I let the professionals handle that, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Completely, perfectly fine.
So I imagine as a football player, you spend a lot of time in the gym lifting.
Of course.
All right. So what's your bench?
My
We
bench?
gotta know your bench. We gotta know your bench. That's the first question you always ask, right?
My bench is all right. It's fallen a little bit. I think it's somewhere around 445 right now, 450.
It's 450 because that's all the weight I have in the gym. You know, so if I had more weight, the weight would be more.
Yeah, and then my squat is somewhere around 525, 550, which is not where I want it to be right now, but I just got more work to do to keep getting back into that, get back into power training, and because I've done that for so long, I felt like I needed a shift and change of how I prepared myself. That's why, you know, I'm doing a lot more of the boxing, a lot more of the conditioning when boxing work, you know, a lot more of the speed conditioning. I feel like I wanted to get a different change of how I prepared my body for this. You know, right now I'm at about 333, 332 this morning. I've played my entire football career running 350, you know, 348. So, I mean, I laugh, but AJ wasn't, you know, exaggerating at all. When I first came to the gym, I was about 352. You know, I was extremely heavy. And, you know, just spending time with them, training with them day in and day out, and not quitting at all. You know, I dropped about 17 pounds within about 3 months. And I've been able to hold, you know, this physique down for as long.
Gained a ton of muscle, too. So he may have lost that weight, but the other weight that he had, you know, went to the right places. I mean, you look at the size of this man. You know, his hands weigh 50 pounds apiece, probably. At least 50 pounds apiece.
So what advice would you give to a guy whose max bench is, say, like 250? Now, I'm asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Asking for a friend. It's the little stuff. Guys think you got to jump up in weight every week. And that's the crazy part. No, that's not what you got to do. What you got to do is you got to maximize the sets, then minimize the reps. And then you also got to do the auxiliary lifts around it. You know, you got to do the chest flies. You got to do the I'm forgetting the names now. My coach would kill me. Yeah. You got to do the lat pull downs. You got to do, you know, a lot of the auxiliary exercises that go around the bench. And it's also how you sit on the bench as well too. Like, you know, I'm working with some of the kids in our gym on how they get themselves seated in the bench so that they're not just using all arms. Because a lot of guys tend to do that and not know that bench is pretty much a whole body workout. You got to have your legs set underneath you. You got to have your quads tightened. You got to have your abs in check. And you got to have your chest big enough so that it's just one fluid motion and not just, you know, an arm motion up and down.
Now, right upstairs from AJ's gym, you've got a place called Juiced.
Oh yeah.
So they're one of our show's sponsors. Have you eaten there?
I eat there all the time.
What's your favorite food?
Those are my best friends over at Juiced. I love the buffalo chicken wrap. I get that. It never fails. Never fails.
They put blue cheese on it?
Yes. They put what is it? Blue cheese on it. Blue cheese, tomatoes, lettuce, and I ask for spinach wrap. And then also get their pre-workout shake. You know, they're working on it. It's called the Big Mike. It's got some.
So they named it after you?
They have to.
Yeah.
It's got some C4, some pineapple.
C4.
Yeah.
Listen.
Has a wick coming out of. It's not a straw. That's a wick.
Hey, you gotta get right. If you wanna get right in the gym, you gotta do it the hard way.
Yeah, definitely check out Juiced, and we'd like to thank our other sponsor, Campbell's Tree Service. 3 generations of tree service, landscaping, excavating. They do it all. Free estimates, call 570-595-2190. Ask for Andy.
So this past weekend, I was up along with Bill over here, our photographer who's in the studio today. We were up at a PA cage fight, and that was in the Woodlands in Wilkes-Barre. And one of the local fighters, one of the biggest names in this area, Sean Shorty Rock Santella. He weighs probably about an eighth of you, Mike. He fights at 125 pounds, but he won his third consecutive flyweight title.
Very nice.
So this guy is on the cusp of being in the UFC. I mean, last year they actually signed him to the UFC on short notice to take a fight. The UFC announced it during their event, and something happened with the medicals, and he couldn't make it, and he hasn't yet competed in the UFC. He's back on the regional circuit, but he won his third title on Friday night, and it was a third round submission. Great fight. The card was excellent. I don't know if you guys ever go up to a PA Cage fight event, but
yeah, they do a great job.
It was great. It was a couple title fights, and then I think there were 5 total title fights.
Wow.
So
that's how you pack a card.
That's right. Also on the card, Tony Gravely. He's the new bantamweight champion. He defeated Jordan Morales via unanimous decision. Then I'm gonna probably butcher his name, but it's Jacob Kazarowski. And this kid, he's probably as tall as you, maybe a little shorter. He's a tall guy, slender though. Like he's not like as built as you.
You gotta be to make that
Excuse me.
No. He wasn't one. This was I think it was a lightweight fight.
Good
Might have been.
Lord.
Lightweight.
This one, Jacob Kazarowski defeat Mike Pagano. I think it was lightweight. I gotta double check on that. But that was a first round TKO. Then there was a kid. Really impressed me. His name's Solo Hatley. This guy. He looks like he had like hair like the Predator.
Oh wow.
And he came up. They said he flew up from Alabama on the day of weigh-ins, short notice.
Yikes.
Took the fight, and he ended up winning a unanimous decision for the amateur bantamweight title. That kid, he was impressive. So, and the kid he beat, I think they said was the #1 bantamweight amateur.
Really?
Yeah.
No
in
kidding.
the state. So that was interesting.
Wow.
Then another kid, James Fitzpatrick, beat Omar Kellum for the interim amateur lightweight championship, and that was another Miller Brothers guy. So I think there was 4 or 5 Miller Brothers guys, and that's probably Brad Kohler right there. Hey Brad, this is Eric. How are you?
Hey Eric, good and good. How are you?
Good. I got AJ Hiller here in the studio.
How you doing, Brad?
We also have Mike Bamiro. He's who made the commercial for you for Combo Hitter.
Hey, how's it going?
Nice.
So we wanted to talk to you. We want to talk to you about Combo Hitter. And right now we're in the studio. The 3 of us. We're going over some of the regional fights, but we're going to talk to you about Combo Hitter and how did you get the business all started, and kind of, I guess, walk us through exactly what the product is for those who are listening on the radio right now. We're live on Genesis Radio.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, the product is a wall mounting boxing apparatus that helps with like a target to hit. It's a safe target to hit that gives in every direction, so it reduces trauma. So you can throw jab crosses from the side of it, from the front of it. You can throw uppercuts. You can throw hooks. In any direction you throw a punch, it gives with the 8 bungees that holds it on each side of it. There's several bungees on it, and so it moves in every direction, and it's got a patented baffle system inside of it that reduces the noise when you hit it straight on. So if you have an apartment or you're in a building or something like that, you have neighbors next door, you can be a little bit quieter, and it absorbs about 30% of the punishment. So that way it's not like a pounding against the wall kind of thing. So it's it's also adjustable in height and tension.
I'll tell you what, we have 3 combo hitters in our gym, and there's no doubt about it. It is the best system we have in the gym. It replaces so many bags. You could do so much with them. I mean, and they're easy to adjust. So if we have a kids class going on, quickly, make it at the lower height, and it is literally, it's the best bag that we have in the gym. If it was up to me, I'd have 20 combo hitters throughout the whole gym. Brad, if you're listening, please call back. Somehow we lost you.
All right, so while we're waiting for Brad to call back in, I'm not sure exactly what happened there. We'll go back to the PA cage fight. So there were five, I believe 4 or 5 Miller brother fighters on the card, and both Jim and Dan were there.
Oh, good.
Also, it was good to see Nick Catone was there.
Yeah.
And a very sad thing with his family. There's tragedy. Earlier this year, he lost his son, and a very sad thing. But it was good to see. It was good to see Nick out there, and I believe all 4 or 5. I think they only lost 1 fight, the Miller Brothers Academy, but they had some great guys there that night. This one kid, Joe Tizano, defeated Tyler Feist, and that was a great fight.
All right. We lost you there, Brad.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Sometimes these phones have a mind of their own.
We're new here too, so we're still learning ourselves.
Yeah.
But
We were talking.
Sorry about that.
it's all right.
Okay, where was I at? What did I cut out at?
So AJ was saying how it's the best apparatus in his gym right now. He was kind of giving you a plug there.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Actually, it's
AJ's been very helpful in the process of all this, actually. So.
it's amazing because Brad, Eric, you were actually there up at the MMA expo
Yeah.
that we did. That's where he debuted the combo hitter. And Brad, I think the best story is that you told me, and you could tell everybody here why you developed the combo hitter.
Well, I tell this story, and it's true. I was, coming out of injuries and problems and things like that in my personal life, and wanted to fight again. And anybody can hit a heavy bag. It's just one of those things you just can't hit every day. And I like throwing different combinations. And I'm not one of those boxer kind of guys. I'm a puncher. I was trained to be a puncher. So when I get in close, I want to throw combinations. Being a wrestler, moving in close, I want to be able to throw combinations. And getting hold focus in 40 all the time is always a challenge. And it's not so much of just having someone find, hold focusness for you. It's someone that's actually good at that. So in my boxing classes now that I teach people how to be focus holders before they can box. Because you can't, it's really hard if you don't have a good partner to get a good workout in. And but if you do have to have a partner and you're switching back and forth, you're really kind of getting a half a workout in. So if you got an hour class of boxing or even an hour and a half of class of boxing, and it's focus midnight, you're each getting a half a class. With the combo hitter, you don't have to switch. You can keep going the entire time. And we've made a lot of improvements in the past year since AJ showed in MMA Expo, and in improving the duration of length of our pad and our upholstery, and having our growing pains kind of thing, where we have many fighters who hit this pad, and the pad will last forever. But you get people who want to do it like a fitness person, someone's not that technically inclined with the focus mitts or punching in general, and they start hitting the combo hitter. They start hitting it with bad technique, and so we had to develop a pad that would not tear off or have any breakdown. So we finally came up with a perfect pad that doesn't have any more problems. It lasts a lot longer. AJ's club is getting his here soon, so his will be, up and running, because he had the older pads, and although they lasted pretty good for a while, but he's got a lot of heavy punchers there and stuff like that. So
yeah.
He was actually helping with him, giving me some feedback on what's going on, to help me make some improvements on this. So I always appreciate people like AJ that help me develop this product, because I can only hit it. I hit mine every day, but some of these other guys who that train fighters and say, hey Brad, hey, they give you these ideas, and that's what kind of helped me with this, because I wanted to come back and start training again, but I didn't have any partners. And when I made the first one, which I still have the first one, it still works. Derek Getzel and Matt Larson up here in Minnesota, and and some other guys who gave me some pointers on, how they felt. It felt to them as far as punching it goes. It was important to me that not only the professional fighters were hitting this thing and it was absorbing the punishment, but the amateurs and kids liked it too, and then it was very safe to hit, So it wasn't like a heavy bag where you go up and just, boom, hit it. You know you're going to get some trauma if you hit it the wrong way, correct?
Right. The most amazing thing, Brad, is like when you hit this, you could hit this bag with everything you have, and it almost makes you feel like you didn't even hit it, and you're looking at it like, how I just put everything I have into this thing, and it's still like making fun of me.
Yeah.
It's looking at me. Now Mike, he hits this thing, and Brad, Mike's the one that did the video for the combo hitter. Out with the old, in with the new. He's a 6'10", 500.
Keeps growing.
That's the one thing about AJ.
When he started the show, 30 minutes ago, Brad, he was 6'8" and 335 pounds.
Yeah. Now he's 6'10",
Now he's 6'10",
480 pounds. But like he hits the combo hitter, and it's the same thing. I mean, you see the video, it's just bouncing back. But he's like Animal from the Muppets. He bit the thing. There's a bite mark in it, so we got to try to come up with something. No, there's not really a bite mark in it. I'm only kidding.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you so much for that. That was a fantastic video.
Oh, thank you.
And I tell you what, I was looking at that going, my God, that guy's big.
Well, at least I can be honest to that.
Going, oh, yeah, is he going to break this thing or what?
Yeah, and you saw he just kept on going at it, and that's one thing. It's an honor to have Brad, on the show. It's an honor to have Combo Hitter as one of our sponsors. Brad's going to be in the area next week at, Maverick.
This coming week.
Yeah, this coming week at Maverick MMA at the Sherman Theater. He brings his combo hitters, and you could come up and test it out. It's an amazing piece of machinery. I'll call it a piece of machinery. That replaces so many different bags in your gym, and you could do so much more with it. I mean, you could do boxing, you could do MMA, you could do, even karate, taekwondo. You could do so much with this bag, and he also has other bags too that I wasn't even familiar with. There's a body bag, there's a kick bag.
We are in the process of developing that into manufacture mode. So right now we're just focused on. We just got that actually. AJ just perfecting the combo there with the new pads, making this thing a full 5-year warranty on the pads now. And so it's one of the things I wanted to mention was that on tonight's show until tomorrow morning, I put on my website a special promotion for the show tonight that if anyone wanted to get a combo hitter, it's only going to be $225 and free shipping.
Oh wow, you can't beat that.
Special tonight, so it's $225 and free shipping. And there's a click underneath. You go to the website at combohitter.com. Under the big picture, you'll see it says Combo Hitter, and then it says My. But it actually says if you click on that, it's actually MyMMANews promo.
Oh, and awesome.
Then, you click on that, and it's $225 total. I think, there's probably tax included there. I'll have to double check on that, but it's a good price if you want to get that. You'll receive that within 4 days in the 48 states. Otherwise Hawaii and Alaska, we don't do free shipping to, but free shipping to the 48 states. And we've grown quite a bit. We're on, of course, Rogue Fitness. We're on Fuji Mats. We're on MMA Warehouse. So the company has grown with some credible companies. We're in Germany now. We're in the Netherlands, soon to be Italy. It's a product that guys like AJ gave me a shot, put it out there, and some of the people tested it out, and it kind of took off,
And I'll be honest, Brad. From a person who's used it quite a bit in the gym, I think that bag is perfect for guys who are just starting up, getting used to working their uppercuts and their hooks, because you'll feel it on the combo hitter if you're hitting the hook on the right side of it and the right angle of it, right where your elbow's supposed to be. It's going to move the right way. So I think, that the combo header is definitely something you should definitely have in your gym, especially for where you're training a lot of fighters.
Thank you. I appreciate that. One of the things that I gotta say that when it kind of went in a direction I never thought it was going to go in was now being used as a medical device. Case Western Reserve and Kent State University, who is some of the leaders in research for Parkinson's disease, were looking for an apparatus that they could actually and not only endorse but do research with Parkinson's patients.
Wow.
And their study shows that it reduces trauma by 99%. There's actual studies that they did with a combo hitter that reduced trauma as opposed to a heavy bag or an uppercut bag by 99%. So virtually, they didn't have anybody have any problems whatsoever with trauma with a heavy bag. So now it's being used in rock steady boxing schools, and of course, AJ, one of the ladies, Teresa, there in Pennsylvania, that's been working on getting these in her rock steady boxing.
Yeah, she's actually starting October 1st. Rock steady boxing is going to be out of our gym here in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania.
The Parkinson's community behind this thing,
yes.
Because it's and now they're coming out with really cool sensors that medically they can start recording their data with these light PSI reading sensors. That the data will be recorded, and there'll be things you can do, apps from your phone that you can download from the website here coming up pretty soon, that you can actually go through a workout with your time sensory, where you can reaction time from the light going on to your PSI reading. How long does it take you to react to that light, and what's your pound per square inch on your reading on that? So when those come out, that'll be kind of exciting. And Case Western Reserve, they did this research, they came up with these sensors, and they're actually giving me the rights to the sensors to be able to sell to our customers absolutely nothing by helping them with this research. So it's been a great trade-off.
That's awesome.
Brad, I got to ask you, this past weekend UFC was in Japan on Friday night, and your first fight with the UFC was in Japan. I think it was almost 20 years ago. It was December 1997. You fought Trey Teligman. You didn't end up winning that fight, but you did come back to the UFC 22, and you had one of the best knockouts in UFC history. They always replay this video. You see it on all the highlight reels. You knocked out Steve Judson in just a matter of seconds, I believe it was. Would you say that was the highlight moment of your career? I mean, I know you fought professionally for, about 10 years or so?
Yeah, no, well, I don't know. Yeah, I had some injuries and illness, but yeah, I did what I can with what I had. I wasn't exactly the biggest heavyweight in the world, but I just love to compete, and I wanted to be a world-class athlete. I would say my very most memorable one would be the first tournament that was Jeff Osborne's hook and shoot.
Yeah.
And my first fight, and I have the recording. It was actually a little over an hour long with no rounds, bare knuckles, headbutts. Was Travis Fulton. They recorded at 57 minutes, but the tape shows I think an hour and 6 minutes. And it was a straight, no rounds, bare knuckle, headbutts, behind the black corner, behind the black curtain kind of thing. It was a tournament, and so you had to fight 3 times in one day for the belt and the cash, or you walk away with nothing. So that was actually, I think, back when I appreciated the tournaments when you won a belt. You win a belt when you win a tournament. You didn't. Now it's no offense to any promotion at all, but it's almost like you win 3 fights in an amateur tournament. You're the local belt holder. Right. Almost like a participation award compared to what it used to be. You have to win 3 fights in one night.
You know what's amazing, Brad? I remember you telling me this story, and the whole event was 2 hours long.
And his fight was.
And his one fight was over an hour long.
And
he fought 3 nights.
It was 3 hours long, and I fought for 2 hours and 3 hours.
Right.
Oh my God.
I have trouble tying my shoes in the morning and not losing breath, and you're fighting for an hour. But so yeah, what was it like back then? I mean, we all know because we're fans of the sport and watch, but obviously you lived through it and you experienced it. What was it like the mentality of like going into these tournaments, like you said, where you had to win or you're not getting paid, but you could walk out, a bloody mess, broken bones.
Well, it was scarier back then. It really was because, you could sit there and ground and pound people, and that's when you do the punishment, when you're on top of someone and you're constantly pounding on them or getting pounded on, one of the two. And so that was when you really did the punishment to people. I mean, and I remember that fight that tournament because in that day I did over 100 headbutts, and it was about 4 days before the swelling came down. Wow. And I'm not kidding you, I headbutted Travis Fulton at least 50, 60 times, and then there was a guy after that, and then it was Cass Daniels, and it was a lot of headbutting, and those little headbutts to another head, it gets you. But back then, if you remember the earlier UFCs, it was no rules.
Yeah.
No rounds, 2 men enter, 1 man. It was scary advertising. And it was like, Jaws. It's like, it's like, oh my God, this is like the baddest guys in the world, and then and it was the guys who had, not only the biggest heart, but the biggest balls, who wanted to go out there and test their skills or just see how bad they were, and you think of back in the days when, Shamrock and Gracie fought, and it was bare knuckles, and then they were in the ring for how long, and then, Mark Coleman in his first couple fights was bare knuckled and, headbutting like crazy, and, so those were, the ones where, you could get, probably eye poked, or there was one highlight video where somebody was getting punched in the balls.
Yeah.
I mean, there was so many things that, nowadays are more, not only lines of gentleman's rules, but more protecting the fighters rather than having a fight.
Right.
So it's I don't know. I mean, I would say it's still, a fun sport to watch, but it's become more of a stand-up game or a kickboxing game, and with the ground and pound, although that might have been boring for some people to watch, it was a lot more brutal. There was a lot more blood.
Yeah.
And, so you had to have a lot more, you had to be a lot meaner back then than you are today, because you never knew what was coming, and you had to be able to withstand it. And you may have to fight 3 times in one night and be in condition for that.
So how did the fight, for those who are listening and don't have access right now to watch the clip, but how did the fight go down with Travis? You said it was an hour long. I think he's still actually competing, if I'm not mistaken. He's got like 200 fights.
Yeah.
And
I made a mistake of having a rematch with him. And, it's one thing I tell people that I train or get into. I said, never have a rematch. If you beat someone, leave it at that.
Right.
And Travis and he was still back then one of the most experienced fighters in the world in our first fight, and that was my first fight.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually was training at Greg Nelson's gym here at the Academy in Minneapolis, and it was like my 3rd week of training. And the guy that was actually going to be in that tournament blew his knee out, and so they asked if there was anybody else that was in that kind of division that could, do it. And I've been wrestling anyway, so my cardio was there, my submissions weren't great, so I just had to protect myself and kind of pin him down and hit my shots and try not to get submitted, and again, my boxing was terrible back then. My God, I didn't learn to box until after that fight. And so I went in for a ground and pound match, and I get there, and they say, oh, he's got no wrestling experience, and this, that, and you find out he's 21-4? What?
Yeah.
I'm fighting a guy that's 21-4? And then, or it was, it's something like that. Then, this is back when Phil Johns was fighting, and Cass Daniels, a lot of guys out of Monty Cox's in Pat Miletich school. And so I'm like going, oh my God, this tournament's kind of loaded. Jeff Osborne, back then, was like, premier promoter, you know, and I mean, guy is pretty well known in the sport as far as MMA, and had a good thing going with that hook and shoot tournament. But I was actually their first tournament champion,
Wow.
and or heavyweight champion, I should say. And you know, so fighting Travis, you know, it's like I don't want to box him because, you know, I wanted my modeling career, of course, to take off. So no, I just kidding. But I couldn't box, so I just shot in on him on double A, took him down, and I was on top of him most of the time. We'd scramble a little bit, I'd get back in position, and you know, he kept whapping me in the side of my ear and my head, and boy, I tell you what, those little punches to the side of your head, the back of your head, because you hit the back of the head back then, and you can do kidney shots, and you can all kinds of crazy things you can do with your heel, you know, and so I was getting heels and back fists from everywhere, you know, so it was a very active first fight.
Right.
It was very active, and so we sat there and, you know, sweat all over the mat for about an hour, and he started bleeding real bad. They stopped it for a minute, and we stood back up. I took him down again and just started headbutting away until finally it was over. And you know, it was I was like, you know, oh my God, you know, I can't believe I just fought for an hour.
Crazy.
You know, and you know, 15 minutes later, it's like you're on deck. You know, the fight after that went like, you know, 12 minutes, and it was submitted. You know, I'm like, okay, and then I'm back in there again against this Frank something or another from New York, who was a 280-pound black belt judo cop, and you know, he had his gi on, and he, you know, we tied up, and I'm like, oh my God, this gi, you know, again, I'm new into the sport really at that time, so this gi was so thick, and so I end up getting uppercutted in my nose. He hit me in my nose. I'm like, oh, you mother, you know, and so I took him down, was on top of him for a while, and I ended up breaking his ribs actually with a punch to the ribs, and I mean, again, I was not a puncher, but somehow I got a good shot in there, and he ended up tapping out at about the 18, 19-minute mark, you know. Jeez. So I got up, go in the back room, was stretching again, trying to get some water. You're up again 10 minutes later. That was it. Now I'm fighting Kaz Daniels, who was out of the military school. He was also a runner-up national champ, I think, from Iowa. Pretty tough guy, and, you know, so we scrambled and scrambled and scrambled, and finally I ended up on top in half guard, and I'm just trying to lay down elbows and headbutts and punches to the ribs, and that lasted about another 20 minutes. So finally, you know, I got him in his eye socket, I think, and he said he was dizzy and he was felt something wrong with his eye and knew he was not going to get me off of him. So he tapped out, and that was it, you know, and that was my first tournament, my first 3 wins, and I went 11-0 from there on until my first UFC with Trey Telligman, which, you know, I kept my same game plan, although I was learning boxing, and I'm on top of Trey Telligman in full mount twice, and the ref pulls me off of him twice in full mount. And if you ever see that fight, you're going to go, why did they stand him up? And it was their first time in Japan for the UFC, so we're trying to make it exciting for these Japanese people who don't scream anyway, unless you're either getting submitted or fighting out of a submission.
Right.
And so it was a really quiet crowd with about 20,000 people there.
Wow.
I mean, you're really quiet. 20,000 people weren't screaming at all. It's like a very respectful crowd, you know? So it was different. And they're introducing us, and people don't applaud. They just sit there. And it was like really new to me. And so I think the refs in the UFC got a little nervous that it wasn't exciting. But in Japan, if you know, they're big in martial arts. They're just really quiet, really respectful, and they just watch. They just watch and until something happens, then they get a little excited. But I was just on top of him the whole time, and about the 9-minute and 50-second mark before it was 10-minute round, and then a 5-minute overtime, I was beating him the entire time, on top of him the entire time, beating him, and he caught me in an armbar up against the fence. And but Trey is, he's a competitor. Big guy too. He's about 235. I was only 211, and but big guy, strong, good school he came out of. So to me, it was a victory in many ways, but it doesn't go in the win column. It was a victory, but not a W.
Yeah. Right.
I get to fight in the most prestigious organization that there was at the time. I got to fight a top 10 ranked heavyweight fighter, experienced UFC fighter at that time, and had a good showing. And I lost by an armbar and didn't come out bloody or bleeding.
Yeah.
So, and it was a fun trip to Japan. Yeah. And you know what? I got to see Tank Abbott kissing his corner man. So that was another.
Yeah.
That was funny.
That's awesome.
Anyway, that was kind of gross, actually.
Hey, Brad, we're just about out of time.
Sorry.
No, that's
right.
okay. Great stories. Looking forward to seeing you this coming week at Maverick MMA. Guys, Brad is running a special right now. Go to his website, combohitter.com. You get a combo hitter shipped to your house in the lower 48 states. For how much was it, Brad?
$225 delivered.
$225 delivered. And when you see the size of this box come to your house, the shipping alone is probably $75. So, he's basically giving these things away at this price. But Brett,
it's till tomorrow, so if you don't have time to get to your computer, you have time in the morning. And hey guys, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
See you next week.
We're going to play your commercial here quick, and thank you again, Brad, for being an amazing sponsor. Thanks for everything that you're doing for the sport. And like I said, we're looking so forward to seeing you this weekend.
Mike, Eric, AJ, thanks. God bless you guys.
All right, God bless. Thank you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Good night.
So that was Brad Kohler.
Did you hear that? He said he headbutted 100 times. I'm talking about CTE. Good Lord.
So that was great stories there from Brad Kohler, combo hitter. We're almost out of time here, but we did have the Bellator 183. And it was kind of reversed this weekend. Usually Bellator's on Friday and UFC's on Saturday. Yeah. UFC was in Japan, so they did Friday night. Main event, Ovince St. Preux defeated Yushin Okami, who took the fight on about a week's notice. He beat him with a Von Flue choke, and whether they're calling it a St. Preux choke now, right. Because Ovince St. Preux, he got the win there in the first round. So. Then co-main event, bloody, great fight, female strawweight fight. Jessica Andrade defeats Claudia Gadelha via unanimous decision. I thought it was I had to watch it on DVR because we were out at the PA Cage fights, but I thought it was a good card overall. And then Saturday night, Bellator, great card. Did you watch it?
Yeah, it was great.
Main event, Benson Henderson.
This guy has no luck, and like he said, he has to finish his fights to get the W. They just don't give Benson any love.
Yeah, he's 1-3 now since going to Bellator, and former UFC champion.
And if you think about it, that one win that he has, it was versus Pitbull's brother. And he got hurt, and he couldn't continue. Yeah. So that was a good fight too. But Benson has to start going in and finishing people like he used to.
So we're just about out of time, but as we said, Brad Kohler will be at Maverick MMA 3 this Saturday, September 30th, Sherman Theater, Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania. There's still tickets available. Main event, Scott Heckman is defending his featherweight title, pro featherweight title, against Rob Sullivan. That's the main event. Great first time. It's a rematch. First time they fought was one of the best fights I've ever seen on a regional circuit. So we have a new article up today on MyMMANews.com with Scott. We interviewed him at the Maverick MMA 3 Open Workouts just last weekend. Great story. It's getting a lot of reads. So check that out at MyMMANews.com. And we want to thank you again, Mike, for coming in.
No problem.
Mike Bamiro.
I had so much fun here. I love being around the MMA environment and just talking to good people as always.
We'll have you back, without a doubt.
I'd love
without
to.
a doubt.
Love to.
Yeah, after you get another win.
Of course, if I can find one. That'd be perfect. Yeah.
All right, so that's gonna wrap it up for us here. Again, we want to thank our sponsors, Combo Hitter, Juiced, and Campbell's Tree Service. And then we'll see you guys next Monday night, 9 p.m., GenesisRadio.com.